It's time for another double bubble. Well, it is Friday, well, here at least. So today we've got another double beer review. This is a Beak and Floc collaboration. We've got Fred's 1 and Fred's 2. We're going to drink them together, one at a time, and then we're going to blend them together and see how great this beer could be as a combination. But keep on watching to see which one's the best and what it's like when it's combined. Welcome back to Rocker's Beer Review. That has to be the worst intro I've ever done. A little bit confusing in terms of what it is. But basically, I've got two beers I'm going to review today. I've both from Beak and Floc. This is obviously, you can see this one's in the Beak sort of branding. And this one's in the Floc branding. But they're both collaboration projects. And we've got Fred's, this is Fred's 1. This is a Floc and Beak. And this is an IPA, 6.5%. And we've got Nelson Sauvin and Luminosa. Now, I've heard Luminosa before, but I always thought it was a type of hop opposed to a hop on its own. So I'm interested to see what that's going to be like. And then this beer, it has got... I should put my glasses on to remember this. The text is really small. This one has got Galaxy, Mosaic and Stratrin. The dank of the dankest free hops, I think. And this is also 6.5% IPA. Now, if you saw my Overtone review that I did a little while ago, I did two beers and they were sort of part of a sort of 70s double album theme sort of thing with the same base hop, but some other different hops. And what I did is I thought, oh, what it'd be like if I put them together and see what it's like. And we got an interesting sort of combination, even though there was some, a lot of the same hops. But this is actually it actually says on the back of the can here. I'll read it out. It says, it was a part of a project to create two singular but complementary IPAs designed to be what's that say? Mixed, basically mixed. I can't even read that. In the same glass. Enjoy on its own or for the full 5D experience, blend with Floc's Fred's 1. So, I'm going to drink them separately, see what they're like separately, rate them separately, and then I'm going to pour them into a singular glass. And I think I'm going to use the big IPA as the singular one, but I'm going to use my small IPA glass and the Polly's Lawrence glass to see what they're like. So first off, let's just do a straight review because they're different hops. I think they're going to be different. It's difficult to compare them, but I think when they're together, that's when it gets interesting. So I'm going to go with the Fred's 1, and this is the one that probably sounds more up my street really because we've got New Zealand hops. Mostly. I'm sure Luminosa is a New Zealand hop. And Nelson Sauvin, obviously. I'll make sure I don't pour the whole lot because I need to do the rest of the blend. And we'll see what this is like. We'll do a quick sort of top to bottom aroma, looks, and all the rest of it. Then we'll do the other one. We're supposed to be doing them together at the same time because I think they're quite different. But what it's going to be is how they complement each other when they're together. So this beer is what you would expect. A lovely sort of yellowy colour. It's a little bit. It's not quite custard. It's a bit darker at the top. It's almost a bit more orangey. We've got two fingers, pretty compacted, sort of just off whitehead. Looks pretty good. See what the aroma's like. The Nelson Sauvin aroma. It is, there's no disguising it. Lots of grape, lots of gooseberry, bit of melon, bit of kiwi fruit, grapefruits, lemons, limes. All that sort of stuff. Smells pretty good, as you'd expect. I'm not quite sure what Luminosa really is and what it brings to it, but we'll see if we can detect any of that in the taste. So, cheers, everyone. Soft mouthfeel, pillowy. I'm getting mainly Nelson Sauvin. I mean, not overly powerful, but it's as you expect. It's one of those hops that you've got to really mess it up, I think, to make it a bad beer. The mouthfeel's there, that elevates it. Then you've got all those flavours like the aromas. You've got grape and gooseberry. They're sort of key flavours for me. Then there's a little bit of that melon sharpness coming in, some sort of bit more funkiness sort of flavour. I mean, melon, I really do not like fresh melon as a fruit, especially like honeydew melon. I'm just not into it. But the flavour somehow works here in a beer. But the fruit itself, I'm not really a massive fan at all. Watermelon, even less so, because I just think it's a pointless sort of fruit. So you're getting a little bit of that melon. You get a little bit of kiwi fruit, lots of sharp flavours, really. So you then that sort of develops, and you sort of think, actually, I was getting that melon and gooseberry, and then that sort of develops a little bit into a bit more cutting zest of lime, lemons, and then a bit of grapefruit coming in. It tastes pretty good. It tastes like a New Zealand IPA, really. It is soft. I mean, I don't drink much Floc beer. I'm going to put a little bit more in there because I'm nearly drinking it. I don't drink much Floc beer, so I'm not sure whether it's how much they're involved and how much Beak are involved. This drinks like a Beak beer in terms of its mouthfeel, but maybe it's just I haven't enough Floc. Maybe their mouthfeel's similar as well. It's smooth, it's zesty, it's fruity. I think it's pretty good. Yes, I've had lots of other, because it's only got 2 hops in it, and I'm getting more of that Nelson solid. There's something in there as well, but it's like, you can tell it's like I think Blue Nose must be a New Zealand sort of hop as well. It's got those sort of characteristics, so it reigns back the Nelson a little bit, but it still doesn't really give much different in flavour itself. Pretty good. Yeah, I mean, I probably expect to rate that as a recommended beer. It's a very good beer. I think you've had it on its own, you'd be going, yeah, perfectly good beer. But as I say, the interesting stuff is when we blend them together. So let's try the second one. So this is the one with the funkier, danker sort of hops that I'm probably, I mean, I don't mind Galaxy, although I wouldn't want it on its own. I'm not really massive of Strata, but again, especially on its own, and Mosaic, actually exactly the same. I think they're the sort of hops that when they're mixed together, might be all right. Or let's say when they're mixed with other hops, but as individual hops, not a massive fan. So let's see what this beer looks like. Well, in a glass, it's similar. It's hazy. It's not really as yellowy custard as say this beer. You can see they're slightly different in colour, but that's because of the hops more than anything. There's a little bit more sort of dankness, and you get more, you can expect more tropical, more stone fruit aromas from this. You've got literally a sliver of head. I always talk about the head, 2 fingers, all that. Every YouTube reviewer does, but a lot of the time it depends on the glass. So this glass, it's literally a sliver of head the way that not the glass, but also how you've poured it. I wasn't very aggressive, so it's literally a sliver of head. It's what you would expect. Yellowy, hazy. Yeah, if we've not seen one, we've seen a million like this before. Key's going to be what it smells like. See what the aroma's like. Yeah, sweaty dankness. Over-ripened tropical mango. Something a little bit more funkier in there. That sort of slightly the passion fruit. That sort of gives way to a little bit of that sort of cannabis pot aroma. And generally very sweaty and dank. For me, not as appealing, it's not as bright and citrusy as the New Zealand sort of hops and the other hops that create more of those citrus aromas. So let's see what it tastes like. Cheers, everyone. Yeah, I mean, it's got that big hit of passion fruit, a real sort of, for me, it's all dank. It's dankness, really. It's over-ripened flavours of fruit flavours, more on the tropical, it's all mango and passion for me. It doesn't even develop into, it's not like as bright peach, it's not bright apricot even. There's a little bit of pink grapefruit sort of flavour as well. It's fairly soft, but I wouldn't say it's as velvety soft as the other beer, so I don't know if although the hops are different, I don't know whether the actual malt and oats profile is the same. It's not bad. Again, it's not blowing my socks off, but yeah, I mean, it's the hops really. If I wanted to buy them two and do the combination. That was really what it was all about. But if I saw a beer like this with those 3 hops in it, I wouldn't really drink it, because I know what I'm going to get, and it's not the sort of flavours that I'm getting. I'm getting a much more earthiness as well that's coming into this beer. A lot more, earthiness, almost to the point where it's getting there's a little bit of piney resinous as well on the back, even though it's very much a New England IPA, but it's, for me, right on that sort of edge of being almost more like mountain IPA in terms of flavour. It's okay. It's I think it's a well put together beer, but at the same time, it's not the hops that I like. But the key is what it's going to be like blended. So we've got a bigger glass. I've pretty much got the same amount. Let's see we'll see how this one pours. I'm going to pour all the rest of it in here anyway. So yeah, you can see that's the Fred's 2, and then we'll top it up with the Fred's 1 to get a fullish sort of pint. Well, that's the sort of beer that you want when you see it in a glass. So for me, I'm getting much more of the Fred's 2 with the New Zealand hops in it in terms of the colour of it. Again, we've got a finger, fairly compacted head. In the glass, that looks pretty good. I mean, that's what you want from a New England IPA. Let's see if we're going to get what sort of aromas we're going to get. Because as I say, they're quite different, these beers. This is what I was worried, concerned about. I'm definitely getting I think the Nelson Sauvin aroma is coming through a lot more. But it's tempered a little bit with all the other hops, but then you can't really smell those. I'm getting a slight hint of some of the other stuff, the tropical, that sort of the passion fruit earthiness, but it's mainly about the Nelson Sauvin. So they're hitting each other, and they're sort of taking away a lot of the aromas of each. So I'll be interested to see what the flavour's like, whether that does the same with the flavour. So let's go for it. Cheers, everyone. Yeah, for me, that doesn't really quite work. It's too much. I mean, we're going to think now we've got 5 hops in here. I'm not getting the good stuff from the Fred's 1. What I like, the New Zealand flavours. But you're not getting a defined flavour of the Fred's 2. Almost, it's almost as they nullify each other, and what you're getting is a very, I wouldn't even say complex. It's just a bit of a hop soup mess, really. I think I'm getting a lot more of the sort of upfront flavour from the Fred's 1, the New Zealand, the Nelson Sauvin. And then at the back end, I'm getting more of that grapefruit flavour. I'm getting more of the passion fruit and that sort of earthiness on the back end. So you are getting a combination of the two. But for me, you lose a little bit of brightness of the first one. And you lose a lot of the definition of flavour from the second one. So I think that putting them together has not made a better beer. It's made a worse one. It's still flavoursome. It's still not bad. I mean, I have a quick swig of what I've got left of these first ones. So yeah, I mean, to be honest, I prefer the combination than I do this one, because I don't really, if I was going to put my favourite hops from first to last, the last ones would probably be the likes of Strata, Mosaic, Galaxy. I mean, there'd be other ones sort of in there, like, which the hops I'm not a big fan of. Cashmere, I'm not a massive fan of. But there's lots of others that are in the middle, and sometimes you can have good beers with them, sometimes you can have not so good beers with them. And I'm thinking of the likes of like your Eldorado's, Eldorado, Idaho 7, Brew One, Vic Secret, those sort of ones are in the middle. Then my top hops would be the likes of Citra, Nelson Sauvin, and a lot of the Australian ones, things like Enigma, things like Azaka and stuff like that, which I do prefer. So yeah, where am I going with this? I'm just going to go with this one again. Yeah, I much prefer that, but then I'm a massive fan of News. You know, I'm a massive fan of News and hops. Definitely the better. And I say, combination-wise, the only other thing that I think maybe has altered my appeal of these beers is I've let them out like an animal really, but I've taken them out of my fridge 2 hours today, which is longer than I normally would. But I was going to drink them maybe an hour ago, but then I had something else on and I didn't. And so they're still cool. They're definitely colder than room temperature, but they're not as cold as I usually drink them. And I can tell that the flavour's a little bit more. It's almost like the flavour is bigger. And so if I'm not a massive fan of the ones that the hops I don't like, I think when they're colder, it can disguise some of the sort of imperfections with the flavour, and I think even with the combined one as well. I mean, it's cold, but my personal preference is to drink it a little bit cooler. Maybe that's affected it. Maybe I've got to the point where the flavours have come out to how they should be, and I'm not a massive fan of the flavours. Who knows? But I'm 16 minutes into this. I've got to do, and I don't think I'm going to do the scores now because it's just going to be too long. So let's top them up here and now. So I think that Fred's one, which has got Luminoso, which is a hop that I need to find out more about, and Nelson Sauvin. I think this is a pretty good beer, and I'm going to rate this one. Looking at all the scores, I'm probably going to rate this round about the 78 mark. I think it's on its own, it's got the good flavours, it's got the stuff that I like, it's got a really smooth mouthfeel. I really like. I think this is at the top end of the recommended. In terms of the other one, it's a well put together beer, but it's just the hops are not sort of singing for me. So for this one, I'm probably going to be it's just about over. I'm going to give it a 74. I mean, it's still a good beer. If you like those hops, then I think you'd like it because it's Beak, and Beak make great beer at the end of the day. They don't make many poor beers, but it's just those Mosaic, Galaxy and Strata are not my favourite hops. And as much as I will drink lots of beer with maybe one of those hops in, and as well as some others, and I think that it does bring a lot to them. When you put those three hops together, it doesn't make it the sort of flavour that I like. So 74 for Fred's 2 and 78 for Fred's 1. Combining them together, well, probably you're going to get in the middle of that. I'd probably say 76. You're losing some of the brightness from the Fred's 1, and you're sort of dissolving a little bit of the sort of over dankness on Fred's 2. So it brings the score in the middle. So 76 combined. That's what I'm going to do for scores today. We're going a little bit off piste with normally, but this is an 18 plus minutes video. Far too long. You're probably already switched off at this point. But let me know if you've had both of these, if you've combined them together. Maybe you've had them a bit colder. Maybe that's changed the flavour of them. Maybe they're more the sort of things that you like. Maybe you've combined them together and thought this is great together. It's a much more complex and interesting beer. For me, hasn't quite worked, I don't think. So yeah, but it was a good experiment, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like it if you do like it. If you're still here and you haven't subscribed yet, well, I don't know if you're going to, but please hit the subscribe button, because the next video might be shorter, might be snappier, might be great, but who knows. Please like and subscribe, as I said, and let me know what you think of these beers. Let me know what you think. Have you ever taken two random beers and blended them together and then come up with a really cracking beer? Let me know in the comments. And until the next one, I'm exhausted, but drink good craft beer and keep on rocking.